Hello and welcome back to the Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, CEO of 𝐥𝐢𝐤 Recruitment Group, specialist payroll and HR recruiters. Today I'm joined by a really good friend of mine, actually, someone I've known for over a decade, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐤. He is an absolute whiz and expert in the field of mindset, resilience, and well-being. With new lockdown restrictions announced only today, I believe it's more important than ever that we all maintain a positive mindset, we all remain resilient, and we all focus on our own well-being. Now, Harry has been awarded a first-class degree in physics and astrophysics, but before his journey into wellness, he was working in the city for some of the biggest companies in the world, including Accenture, Sainsbury's, and the London Stock Exchange. But following over a decade in the city, he left to forge a new path to help professionals improve their health, well-being, and their energy levels by founding his own business, 𝐻𝐻𝑔ym.com, and you can check it out, and I'll put a link in the notes as well. Harry now holds a master's in health and well-being, and you may have even seen him yourself speaking on the TEDx stage. He's a visiting lecturer at the European Centre for Executive Development, and because he's become so sought after by clients who want to progress their well-being agendas, in fact, so much he's delivered workshops on well-being to Lewis Hamilton's team of engineers at Mercedes, as well as billionaires and CEOs across the UK. So rather than me tell you about him, let me welcome you to the show. Welcome, Harry, to the Listening Lounge. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Nick. That was quite an introduction. I was standing here thinking, wow, that guy sounds impressive, but before realising that was me. So thank you for having me. And
pleasure.
Introduction.
Delighted. I mean, you also introduced me to the green smoothies, so I owe you a lot of thanks, more than just
I have mine here.
There we go. That doesn't surprise me. Well, look, you are considered now to be one of the leading UK experts on mindset, resilience, and well-being. So let's start with this. Tell me, why do you do what you do?
Well, I used to work at the London Stock Exchange and for Accenture. And in 2008, obviously, there was that financial crisis, lots of changes that were happening. I managed to stay employed, but around 2010, they started doing mass redundancies. And when I took redundancy, I started getting into different fields. I was always into psychology, mindset, neurolinguistic programming, NLP. So over the course of about a year or so, I made somewhere between 100 to 200 micro changes in my own lifestyle. And this was around 2010, 2011. So we met in 2010. Just over a decade ago, actually, September, wasn't it? 2010. I'd made all these changes. And as I started to recognize that actually the way that I was living life and the way that majority of people live in life is not the only way. And my paradigm, right, my way of thinking about the world, my viewpoint of the world shifted in terms of what it meant to be healthy, what it meant to age, what it meant to have disease, what it meant for success, what it meant for relationships, and everything changed. And what I came to the realization was that it would be a real shame if everything I learn just stays in my head and dies with me. What's the point of learning something if you can't then help it to teach someone else to help make their lives better? So energy and vitality became really, really important to me. I got a first-class degree in physics with astrophysics. One of the fundamental equations that almost everyone will know, even if they don't know or like physics there, which is Einstein's equation of E equals mc squared. The E stands for energy, and M, mass, and C is the speed of light. What that's saying is that anything with mass, effectively, which is pretty much anything in the universe that has substance, is effectively energy, right? So everything fundamentally comes down to energy. It's the kind of the root fundamental unit, I guess, of the universe is energy. And for me, energy and vitality really came to the forefront there, because if I didn't have energy and vitality, it doesn't matter how many skills you've got. It doesn't matter how many techniques you know for setting goals, or if you're the best salesperson in the world. If you don't have the energy and the vitality to get up and go and deliver those sales calls, or the energy to work a full day at work and come home and still play with your kid, you know, that to me is the fundamental thing, you know. So the reason I do what I do is because I learned lots of things about energy, vitality, resilience, mindset, well-being, success, self-leadership is what I call it, that I wanted to share. And so that's what gets me going.
So But we're in a pandemic where resilience is really being tested. And funny enough, you found your journey through redundancy, albeit 10 years ago and through a different situation. But there are many, many people now who are losing their jobs due to the pandemic, no fault of their own. They're finding themselves now in a position they didn't expect or predict. Right? So what would you say to those individuals who are struggling to maintain not just the vibrant energy needed to get things done, but the energy to stay uplifted, the energy to stay positive, and the energy to stay resilient? What advice would you give to those individuals that need an expert like yourself right now to give them some reassurance?
We only have control over two things, right? Our attitude and our actions. That's basically it. And so for everybody who's out there, the couple of things I think about really is firstly, understanding that the event itself is not necessarily the outcome. Okay, the outcome, some people think, okay, lose my job equals bad, right? Break my leg equals bad, or whatever it might be. That is tying up the event with the outcome, right? Now, this isn't to say that the events don't make a difference. Of course they do. But there's a difference. If you think of another equation, right? At the moment, we've got E for event and we've got O for outcome. Okay. And a lot of people think E equals O, right? Event equals outcome. Redundancy equals bad. Broken leg equals bad, etc. But there's another part of the equation which goes on the side with the E, and that's the letter R. Okay. And that's E plus R equals O. The R stands for your response to the event. Okay. Not your reaction. Okay, the reaction is usually something that is not thought out. It's something that that really doesn't create much of a gap between what's called the stimulus and the response, or the event and the response. So E plus R equals O, which means that your response, you can't control the event, right? The events in our lives we can't really control, almost never, right? There's always going to be other factors that play into things like economics, other people, other personalities. But we can always control our response, right? And that change of response is what's going to change that other side of the equation, the outcome. So you may see that redundancy and say, well, okay, you know what? Actually, my response to this is I'm going to upskill. I'm going to make it so that I do something that is something I'm passionate about, or I get to spend more time with my family. I mean, I've had a lot of tumultuous time as well, because I do a lot of stuff live. Like workshops, and I do a lot of stuff in schools, and obviously that closed down as well. So you have to change your response, because you can't often change the events of your life. So that's the first thing I would say, okay? And that is your response to the events that make the difference. And the other thing I would say, going back to that word control, is it's kind of like a variation of old Stoic philosophy, which I really like, which is kind of an ancient Greek philosophy, if you like, which kind of has got lost over the years. And that's control what you can control, cope with what you can't, and concentrate on what's important. Okay, so control what you can control in life, your attitude, your actions, cope with what you can't, right? Things are going to go on, and I'll explain how to cope with things in a moment. And then concentrate on what's important. What's important? Okay, my health, my family, my relationships, my mental health, and so on. And something that I use, I know I'm speaking quite a lot at the moment, but it's almost my main stress management strategy. In fact, it is. And that is, this too shall pass. Okay? This too shall pass. Really, everything in life, the universe, everything is transient. Okay? When you're on top, you're never always on top. When you're on bottom, you're never always on bottom. So you don't need to, don't get too caught up in the hype when you're on top, because that's not going to last. But also don't wallow in the down times, because they're not going to last either. Everything is transient in life, right? One of the things that, I always consider when something quote unquote bad happens to me is that this isn't the way it's always going to be. Okay. Maybe it will go worse for a bit, maybe it'll go better, but you don't know. The thing is, just like the seasons, summer, spring, autumn, winter, everything has a cycle. And so we're currently in a cycle, a very tumultuous cycle, but it's not going to last. Okay. There's going to be changes that are happening all the time. So that's something that always gets me through things, and seeing that where I am now is not where I will necessarily be in the future, just like where I am now is not where I was in the past. Okay, so control what you can control, know that this too shall pass, and also recognize that your response to an event creates the outcome, the event itself does not create the outcome.
First class, brilliant, excellent. Well, I think we're going to end there part one then. We're going to come back for part two, where we're going to find out more about what employers really need to think about in today's working climate. So thanks, Hyde, for part one. Join us again later in the week for part two.